Pranakasha live stream.
Hi folks, this is Matt from Pranakasha Productions, and today we are meeting with Ghezal Omar, who I met at San Diego Comic-Con, and we talked a little bit, and she showed me her graphic novel right here, 357 Magnum Opus. And then I went to my hotel room and I read it, and I read the whole thing in one night. It was a blast. So I said, hey, I came back and we talked a little bit, and I said, we should do something on my show. So here we are. And this is the first time either of us have seen each other unmasked. So now we get to see what we look like with a nose and a mouth. So it's kind of exciting. So you were just at another Comic-Con type of a thing, right? This weekend?
Yeah, since San Diego, I've been to two more Comic-Cons. No, three. We did San Diego, then LA Comic-Con, Chicago, which is C2E2. And this weekend, this just past weekend was Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California. So 4 weekends back to back of Comic-Cons and such.
Wow.
So.
Busy. Is this the first time you've hit the circuit that hard, or?
Yeah, it's the first time I've hit the circuit in general. Last year when we released the book, COVID happened, so really couldn't do much. Right. So just had it available digitally, worked on the website and a limited social media presence. And then this year, once things started opening up again, definitely wanted to hit as many Comic-Cons as I could.
Yeah, to tell the truth, the first real convention that I've been to in like 20 or 30 years was Star Trek Las Vegas this summer in August. And then after that, I got the bug. I was like, oh, I got to do more of these. This is really fun. So I'm kind of new at it too, to tell you the truth. Wow. So tell me about the book. So this is your big project. This is literally your magnum opus, right?
For now, yes. Let's hope that I can write some more things. It is a big project. It's my first published graphic novel. It took me quite some time to get it completed. I would say about 6-7 years from.
Yeah, because didn't it say you started in 2017 or something like that?
So 2013, when I moved back from Afghanistan, I was looking for an artist, and every artist I would hire would actually drop out after 30, 40 pages because this book itself is 160 pages and it was overwhelming. And around 2017, I was speaking with a colleague about it, and he mentioned his friend, his friend MingChen Shen is actually a great artist. So that's when I got to meet MingChen, and we worked on this for about 1.5 years.
Wow. So, and then you said you returned from Afghanistan. So there's an interesting story there, right?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Afghanistan, but I grew up in California. So I'm Afghan American. And around late 2009, I moved to Afghanistan for about 3.5 years. And then I returned back in 2013.
Wow. So how old were you so 2009, how old were you when you were in Afghanistan then?
How old was I? I'm not really good at math. Let's see. I was 30. I was 30. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I have to do math. 2009, so 11. So you're 41 then?
No, I'm 43.
43. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, you just missed the magic number of 42. Have you heard of that number?
Is it a Star Trek reference?
It's a sci-fi reference because it's from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Because a big gag, there's a million gags in that series, but one of the big ones was the answers to life, the universe, and everything was 42.
Interesting. I haven't read it. Movie, so.
Yeah. Okay. So what inspired you to go back to Afghanistan after living in the US for so long?
I actually went there for work. So when I was there, I was quite productive. It was, 2008, 2009, the economy wasn't doing very well here. So I went there to start a business, did contracting, which meant I bid on US government contracts and such. And I also, worked on making a short movie from the US Embassy, which was to win the hearts and the minds of the Afghan population. So I wrote a screenplay. Yeah. And so did minor contracts and such, started a fire training academy, kept myself busy for about 3.5 years. And then eventually I just wanted to come back to the States and with my family.
Okay. So when you were there, were you sort of like in sort of a bubble of the US, like you still felt like you were pretty much a US citizen, or did you feel really integrated into Afghan life?
More the former.
Okay.
Definitely an expat for sure. I didn't live on the base. I lived in the city, moved several times, lived in guest houses, had an apartment and such. But I definitely was still an expat. We went to international restaurants and we were part of the
Okay.
international scene for sure. So I can definitely claim to the first one.
Okay. So like, did you dress like a Westerner, or did you dress like an Afghan woman when you were there? Or
Well, you wear a scarf,
uh,
you cover your hair, and then you'll just wear like a longer shirt and you're just covered up, that's about, where I dress. So you dress conservatively for the
right,
culture and society. Yeah.
right, yeah. I was in the Air Force, so I mean, I actually never was never based in a Muslim country, but a lot of my friends were. So they got lots of training for that too, like how to be, and like in the military, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to make yourself a soft target. And in other words, you don't sort of advertise that you're military, and you just try to blend into this society. So, you know, basically, so you blend in. And so that's the safest thing to do. And you get all kinds of training like that. So that's interesting. Okay. So that's wild. So I mean, so you consider yourself pretty much just an American Californian type of person, really, than an Afghanistanian, would you say?
I'm Afghan American.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I grew up in the California, in the Bay Area. I grew up here. I went to school
Okay.
here. However, most of my friends are Afghan. I'm
Okay.
very close with my cousins and my family. In fact, I'm at my cousin's house right now and we're Afghan.
Okay.
So I would definitely call myself Afghan American.
Okay. Because, like, well, of course, I'm just going to ask the obvious question. Like, this book is like quite, like, I would consider this book quite racy. So, like,
Really?
especially the cover, she's got a little black bra on, which is basically a piece of electrical tape. But the real picture is fully exposed.
Right.
And I thought it was, when I saw the book, I'm like, whoa. So when am I going to read, like, graphic novel porn or something? But actually, this picture is actually probably the most explicit picture in the whole book, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I tell
So
people who drop the book, I'm like, trust me, that's the most controversial part of the book is the cover.
yeah,
Everything else is what you've seen already on TV and the movies. So
right. So what inspired you to go all out and put that on the cover? Did you guys discuss it, or how did
no,
that come to
no.
be?
It was tricky. The book was done and we were just thinking, okay, what do we do for the cover? And I was speaking with my friend Josh, and who's a creative director, and he
Uh-huh.
asked me, he goes, "What's your favorite scene in the whole story?" And I explained to him it's this one fight scene, and then that's the climax of the scene, the whole finale, that's action scene. So I don't want to reveal too much. And
Right.
he said, "Well, why don't you make the cover?" I'm like, "You're absolutely right." So then it didn't occur to me, well, wait a minute, this might be a little too controversial and such. But I worked with Josh and MingChen, and we made sure it was colorized and
Right.
went for it. So maybe in the future, it'll probably be a more PG-13 cover. And that's why when I have sold the book, I've told people it's a limited hardcover edition of 500 with this version, just because the whole point of the book is to be accessible to people. However, I don't want to scare people off when they see the cover and think, oh, this isn't for me. So
Yeah. Well, that's why. Okay. That's interesting. So that, and then this also, the name of the character. So your main character's name is Sex Pistol. So when
I
you
love
put
punk rock.
Sex Pistol in this cover, you're like, wow, well,
Yeah,
this is going to be like porn. That's what I think.
really, really. I
Yeah.
think of rock and roll. I think of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So,
Okay.
and that's what the story has. So I like punk rock. I will say I'm a bigger Clash fan than I am a Sex Pistols fan, but
Okay.
Sex Pistols sounds like a really cool, badass name. So wanted to give
Went
my
for it.
main character a cool name. Yeah.
Right. That's cool. And she's like, what would you describe her as? Your main character? Like,
Uh, she is she's a complicated woman, right?
okay.
She's a complicated figure. She doesn't take BS from anyone. She's all about the work, about the job. However, to say that she's not affected by loss, I
Mhm.
can't say that she is, and it does bring trauma to her. But overall, she's a loyal individual, and she's willing to take major risks.
Right.
And I would like for her to be considered, you know, she's, got, issues like every other, individual out there. So
Yeah.
she's not going to be perfect. I don't expect my characters to be perfect. She makes decisions for the moment, sometimes for better or worse.
Right. And her job is, by the way,
She's a bounty hunter. She's a
yeah.
bounty hunter. Yeah. Yeah.
So she's kind of, I don't know if have you watched the live action version of Cowboy Bebop?
I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen the animation, a few episodes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I watched the whole thing, all 10 episodes. I thought it was great. So I was really pissed when Netflix said that they were going to cancel it after like a month.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, but they're bounty hunters, and it's kind of, it's like, it seems like it's a similar genre actually, except that that's sci-fi. But they also have a strong woman character in it that comes in a few episodes in, and she's pretty much holds her own with the two tough guys, and so this character is so she's definitely like a badass, independent, you would say tough guy, except she's a tough girl. So like, how have you always looked up to characters like this when you were younger, or how did you arrive at having someone like this?
I've always been a big Tarantino fan, and most, if not all, of his
Tarantino.
movies usually have a very strong female heroine in it. And if you look at Kill Bill, as an example, Beatrix Kiddo, she's pretty awesome. So even if the villains in that movie, they're all pretty cool. So heavily influenced by Pulp Fiction, by Tarantino.
Oh yeah.
I like action stories. I'm a woman, so it's easier, I guess, to write as a woman.
Yeah.
And I like action stories that are a bit more grounded, not necessarily being on the spy series of the world and at that level where CIA and the FBI. I'm not into that. I'm more into what's happening on the ground level that affects individuals here. So, I just wanted a strong, badass chick to do the job, and who can do the job the best? The woman. So,
yeah. Like let me ask you this question. So I'm assuming that in some ways you identify with her, right? She's like your alter ego in some respect.
I wish. I'm not as tough as her. No way close. You watch the movies, you wish you could do certain things, or you would do this, you do that. I just wanted to have fun with it and want to create a fun character that people can engage with, who has some witty dialogue here and there and does some nice ass kicking, So I think and everybody wants to do that sometime, right? So.
Right. Okay. Wow. Very interesting. And it's set in California, right?
It's set in Vegas and Los Angeles. So they live in Vegas, but the job is in LA.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
Well, tell me, what'd you think of Sexx Pistol? What'd you think of the characters?
I thought I liked her, and it took me a while to figure out what she was all about. Like, it seemed at first like the point of her was just to be a really tough chick that goes very much against the grain, especially against any ideas of what it means, to be a good girl, right? So, and she's just very, very independent. And yeah.
I mean,
it's a bit of a mystery because she doesn't reveal that much about herself in this story.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's by intention, probably as you develop the characters, you might see more of her vulnerable side. So most of the time she's just, out there kicking butt.
Yeah. People ask me about certain things, and it's part of the backstory. However, I don't necessarily write things inside the book itself. It's more a backstory for myself to help create the scenes and the tension and the drama. But there's backstories to all these characters, the main ones at least. This was set up to be a trilogy, so there will be a sequel that's more based off Cindy's character and a prequel that's based more on Dylan's character. So that way you get to see more of Sexx Pistol, even though she may not necessarily be the main character in those stories. You get to learn more about her.
Okay. Now, how did she arrive at that name for herself? Because I'm assuming that's like a call sign that she adopted at some point.
her real name is obviously not Sexx Pistol.
Right.
It was just like me. She likes punk rock music. She was not like me, but she was like an ex-cop, and she went pretty rogue.
Okay.
So punk rock culture is a rogue piece of culture, and for her to protect herself and just to stay as a badass to herself, that's the name she adopted.
Uh-huh. And at some point, maybe we'll have a scene where she's listening to some of her favorite bands or something like that.
Maybe she's wearing
That'd
like a
be kind
t-shirt
of
or
cool.
such. Yeah.
So, okay. So then how do you come up with the men characters in the story? Because they're most of them come up as kind of thugs.
Well, Cassius, I don't think is a thug. I think
Yeah.
Cassius, her partner, he's he's a really good guy. Honestly, he's probably the least morally ambiguous character
Okay.
in the story, if you ask me. I think he's very loyal to her, and he's not all things are black and white, where Sexx Pistol is.
Right.
So he thinks more critically. He thinks about things through, and so I think his loyalty toward her. And then there's obviously individuals like Bastian and Lynden Baines. Bastian's just, you know, it's like a roach. He's a scum,
Yeah.
he's going to leech onto anything he can. And Lyndon Baines is just a crime boss. At the end of the day, he only cares about money and himself and his reputation.
Yeah. So he's one of those underworld type of dudes. Wow. Okay. And then for Sexx Pistol, how did she become as tough as she is? Besides being a cop, like, did she have a really strong mother when she was a kid, or a strong father, or aunt or uncle, or have you figured all that out?
Yeah, she was actually a single mom. Her
Oh,
father
okay.
really wasn't in her life, so she had to be strong
Okay.
for her mother as well. So
Ah.
seeing the things that her mom went through, and that's why years later on she did become a cop. But
Oh, her
and
mom was a single mom. So
her
she,
mom was a single mom, yeah.
okay,
So she
okay, okay,
was, she had to be pretty strong herself.
okay.
And in the prequel, I explore a little bit more about how it became where she left the force and became a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't spoil any of that then. That sounds interesting. All right. Then my other question is, like, when you're making a graphic novel, and I think I asked you this when I was at your booth, like, how does that work when you're writing the script? Is it like, do you have the scenes in your mind really vividly there already, or do you end up working with the artist quite a bit to come up with the actual art?
Yeah, it's interesting. This was written as a screenplay. It was actually a 102-page screenplay that I wrote.
Oh, okay.
So
That's why it
you
says
have
act one and act two, and
Act
yeah,
Three, right?
yeah.
It's adapted to be a graphic novel for that medium, which was a bit challenging because it was around 2013 when I thought, hey, this would make a pretty good graphic novel. So I worked with my friend Flip Knox, who helped work with MingChen to adapt it. So I have certain scenes where I imagined, okay, there's this sequence that was inspired by this movie and this song, and this is how I envision it. And Flip worked with MingChen to, okay, this is the image that would make sense in this panel. We want to make sure we have 5 panels on this page, and we end on this panel. So I worked really closely with him.
So once you started working with him, then you guys started tweaking the scripts according to
Some
what the
parts,
graphics you're putting down.
some parts you have
Okay,
to, some
yeah.
pages you have to remove because it just doesn't work.
Doesn't quite
And
work. Yeah.
yeah, and then some pages you're like, okay, there's like a scene that Flip had in mind, and you can actually get it in the digital version. It's not available in the print version.
Mhm.
But I wasn't like something I had in mind, but it worked for the graphic novel, just having a full splash page. So
Right.
you make some tweaks as you go along.
Yeah. Well, that gets into like the whole thing, like when they take books, popular books, and adapt them to movies or TV shows. Um, you have to adapt it, right? Like certain things work good in a book that don't work good on screen. And so that would be, so it's kind of the same process. It sounds like once you decided to go with graphic novel, then you had to start tweaking some of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Some things are longer, so you got to make it shorter for the graphic
Right.
novel. You can't have, someone on a 10-page car chase, right? So it's like,
Right.
okay, bring it down to maybe a page or two.
And like in your script, was it mostly just dialogue, or did you have a lot of description of what the scenes were going to be like in the script?
In the script, typical screenplay, you give the description, you have the dialogue, the description, and then with the panel flip, the way he worked it is he looked at the scripts and then he said, okay, this makes sense for this panel, and he gave some direction to MingChen to adapt.
Uh-huh. How do you like that process? Like, did you guys get into any big arguments, or was it fun, or was it difficult, or?
It was really refreshing working with MingChen because the other artists I had hired previously just would not finish, and it was just holding up the project. So in fact, I had one artist hold up the project for 2 years. And meeting MingChen, and he's just so talented. And on the way home, he just sits there, makes his changes, and he'll work and he'll create something and he'll send it over. And usually on spot, he's got it. It's like, I don't really need many changes to be made because he knows what he's doing.
Right.
So it was really fun knowing that I'm working with a professional at his level. And yeah, so in the future, I'd probably be a bit more involved with some of the creative direction, but I was really happy with the direction that he selected with Flip. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, another thing I threw out there at you when we were emailing each other was the possibility of trying some of it like as sort of like a radio play, or a thing. A lot of times on YouTube now, they'll show comic books and then you have somebody to read along, or you might get really involved and add sound effects and music and stuff, and many voice actors and stuff. And so you have any plans of doing anything like that, or does that interest you?
Yeah. February timeframe, we're looking to release this as a webtoon. That's one step. And then secondly, having it on YouTube and potentially looking at other channels where we do have audio, have a visual storytelling. I kind of have to see what others are doing and how they're doing it, because I don't typically include exposition in a graphic novel, but there's obviously exposition in the screenplay. But I think that would be fun. I had a friend recommend that to me a while back. I think it was just her excuse of not wanting to read. She had bought the book, but she just, I think, is an Audible person. She goes, hey, do you have the audio version of this?
Can I have the audio book? But it's a comic book. You got to see the pictures.
Exactly. So, but I think it'll be fun having it on YouTube where you can watch it in action. I do have a TikTok channel where I play with the animations and different scenes, and I have music in the back. Cool. So you can see characters moving and such. So that was fun.
Okay, so we'll put the TikTok link in the description. I'll also put the description to the link to your website in the description too. And right now it's having trouble. At this moment we can't get to it, but that will be fixed soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be in there. And then, did you say you had a YouTube channel?
Not yet. I own the domain. I just haven't loaded anything. What I also did these past 8 conventions is I captured a lot of B-roll, my experience. Right. So make a quick highlights video that's hours and hours of video, just condensed into 30, 45 seconds. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of ways you could do it. Like what you could try, you could even do it on my channel if you want. We could try to do like one small scene from this book and just try to do it with voice actors and just see what happens, like a 1 minute or 2 minute video and see how you like it,
we can definitely try anything. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's now that the convention season, I guess, is over, until the next part starts again. Now I'm going to be focusing on this, but also I have another story that doesn't have to do necessarily with the same character. So I have to start working on hiring artists for that. Mm-hmm. And editors. So I've met a lot of great creators at all these events. So I'm looking forward to creating that story, in addition to elevating the presence of 357 Magnum Opus.
Yeah. This whole Comic-Con event thing is really cool. Like I really got into it. I love just being able to go and see these really talented artists and just like talk to them and hobnob with them and get to know them. That's really inspiring. So that's neat. Well, so I would see, do you think you'd be able to play a part? Do you think you could do her voice, Sexx Pistol's voice?
No.
So you'd want a different actor?
Not at all. For that. Definitely a professional actor and actresses are needed for any of these voices. So.
Yeah. And do you think the next book is going to be black and white as well, or like
Yeah,
color?
yeah. I like the whole black and white feel to it. It gives that noir feel to the story.
Right.
So, and I have a whole pile of books that I've purchased from these conventions, and I would say 9 out of 10 of them are color. So I
Uh-huh.
think it kind of stands out not being color.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, Ming Chen did such a great job with tones and such. It's, like, how can you go wrong with that? Like, he did such a great job as black and white. Sometimes it's hard to capture it correctly, but
That's true.
he did such a great job. So,
Yep. Black and white definitely has its appeal. There's times in my videos where I intentionally go black and white too, for effect. That's cool. And how fast can he write like a page of,
raw.
yeah.
Well, we were looking to finish this in 8 months. It took him a little bit longer just because Ming Chen actually works with video games. In the video game industry, he's really hot. So
Oh,
he's
cool.
known for some really amazing video games. So uh, he's fast.
Yeah,
You
he'd
have to
have to
watch
be.
him. You have to watch him. And honestly, like, it's really impressive. Just the fact how hard he works. And I don't know how, I mean, honestly, the fact that I had other artists working on this for years and just delaying the project, and he committed to it and just did
Slammed
it.
it out. I mean, yeah, to write this many pages of comic book stuff, you would have to be fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredibly hard finding a sequential artist that actually lives in your area. I got lucky, and I thought it was just perhaps the timing,
Right.
Kismet or something, where I got this job, and then my colleague knows him, and he happens to live in the same city as I do, and
Yeah.
voila. And then he got the video game gigs, but I think my timing was just perfect because
Yeah.
he was committed to it, and he had already started, and he was doing such a great job. So
Yeah.
I was willing to wait. So
That's cool. Of course, now with Zoom, you could potentially collaborate with whoever. As long as, I mean, if you could do like a call like this and potentially do it with somebody in a different state if you had to.
yeah, honestly, Ming
Yeah.
Chen is so like, great thing about him was that he's very independent. He had the right vision. He understood what I was going for and what we were trying to capture.
Hmm.
And when he would produce the artwork, it was just on point. It didn't really require so many edits and revisions. And then when we did need it, it was just fast. It wasn't
Yeah.
something where, hey, I'm going to have to wait a couple more weeks for something so minor. So
Right. Yeah. So you got a good partner there then.
I did, very
And
lucky.
yeah. Yep. That. Well, it seems to me that's how it works, as far as I can tell. I mean, and I'm also a musician, and same deal. It's like you just find people that you like to in the music world. You find people that you like to play with, and then you can tell, like within a minute or so, whether you're grooving with that person or not. And then if it is, it can be so fun because it just happens. So and then or if it's somebody else is really not, for some reason you guys just don't hit it off, then it's just, well, when's this gig gonna get over with? I want
Yeah.
my $50, but that's so I'm discovering now I'm kind of late to the game as far as YouTube and acting and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of just trying to take everything I know about music and apply it to these other art forms. And there's many things that cross over. It's just like there's a certain theme that they all share, and then it's like you're just rewiring different parts of your brain to do that kind of stuff. That's neat. Ah, yeah. So let me ask you this. So how I'm looking at the scene where this maid shows up, and then it turns out she's like a secret agent or something like that, and they get in a fist fight right in the bathroom, and then she gets like severely poked in the eye by Sexx Pistol, and then a proper thrashing right after that. So that is there any backstory to that scene, or how that came to you? Like, did you want a maid, or was it his idea she should be a maid?
No, it was, I came up with that scene in a state of flow. Honestly, that's why it's one of my favorite scenes. And that's why I picked the cover. I was in a state of flow when I wrote all those pages in the screenplay,
Uh-huh.
and it was done. I was like, when I was done with it, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I love it. And the eye gouging is actually Flip's idea. So when the script was already done and we went to MingChen, that's when Flip said, let's go ahead and make this scene a little bit more graphic and having the eye gouge. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost Shakespearean. I can't remember which play it is where the guy gets his eyes scooped out. I think it might be Othello. Wow. Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of blood and guts in this. And then, yeah. So tell me about Quentin Tarantino. What's your appeal? What do you I like him too. Like, of course I love when I saw Pulp Fiction. I saw it on video. I didn't see it in the theater, but when I saw it, I was like, oh God, I love this movie. Even though he usually goes too far where he like finally ends up grossing you out because it gets so graphic, and you wish he'd dial it back a little because at least I feel like if he would dial it back a little bit on the gross out part, it would serve him better because the stories are so good and the characters are so good that sometimes it goes overboard and it sort of dominates your memory of it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Like you, I saw Pulp Fiction on video. I actually wanted to see it in the theater. I was with my cousin, and she wants to see Interview with the Vampire, and it's one of those things where I'm still angry about it because I'm like, we could have seen it in the theater, but we saw Interview with
yeah,
the Vampire, which wasn't bad, but it's definitely no Pulp Fiction.
never not nearly as good. Did you
Yeah,
see the other Quentin Tarantino one that came out? What was it called? Like Band of Eight or something like that? It was a cowboy movie.
The Hateful Eight.
The Hateful Eight, yeah.
I saw that in the theater. Yeah,
Yeah, so did I.
yeah.
I ended up, my daughter took me to it when she was like in senior in high school or something. And again, I really liked that movie, but then at the end, it got so graphic that it almost wrecked it for me because the story was so good up to that point, and then it just became like a bunch of just blood and guts everywhere. So I
Yeah,
wish he
I
hadn't
feel you
done
on that.
that.
I feel you
Yeah,
on that. But his
yeah,
characters are so witty, and the dialogue and just the way he tells a story, I just love.
yeah,
So, and he does it in every movie. So it's like he always finds a way to top himself, and they're always
yeah,
memorable. So that's why I'm such a Tarantino fan.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you know that, but he was pitching a Star Trek script at some point. He he said, "I got an idea for a Star Trek movie," and everybody's like, "A Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie?" At first you think, no way. And then you think, well, actually, I'd watch it because I just want to see what he'd do with it.
I think it'd
But
be pretty awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it never happened, but who knows? Maybe it still has a possibility. We'll see. So speaking of Star Trek, didn't I think you said that you had some interest in doing some sci-fi at some point?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't actually done any, and I need to read more sci-fi, watch more sci-fi, but thinking outside the box, I've always just crime stories. I love writing crime stories, but I definitely want to uh, kind of experiment and kind of use my imagination a little bit more. And that's what I think sci-fi allows you to do
Right,
is think of things that, could possibly happen. Who knows,
right.
and it just adds different elements and layers and complexities to a story. So,
Yeah,
and I know it's a very popular genre, so I don't want to just limit myself to just crime noir type of stories, but definitely expand.
yeah. Well, then, I mean, there's lots of crime noir sci-fi type of things too. Like, I mean, you could say that Cowboy Bebop is that, especially a couple of the episodes are totally that. So they did a lot of things along that route. And then another show that you might want to watch, especially the first season of The Expanse. I don't know if you ever heard of that show.
I have heard of it, yeah, but I haven't
The
watched
first
it.
season is totally
Okay.
crime noir. In fact, the authors say it's crime noir in a sci-fi. It's like it's got a detective, who's down his luck and he's on the outs and he's kind of lost faith in society and he doesn't care anymore. And but then there's this girl that he gets involved with and who's got kidnapped and she's kind of like this shining light that makes his life worth living. And his whole goal in life is to try and track her down and save her. And meanwhile, he goes through the whole underworld of the asteroid belt and he knows how to deal with all the thugs, and all the different crime syndicates and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
It's that whole deal.
right.
So
Yeah, you
that's
can have fun with it. You can do different things and such, and not be held to the laws and of this
yeah,
world, and literally and figuratively. So
yeah. So along that route, did you ever see? You can take that and go into comedy. Like, did you ever see Get Smart, that show?
I have not seen the show or the movie. No,
Oh,
I'm familiar with it, but I never watched it.
you'd have to see appreciate the movie, which I liked. For some reason, it tanked, and a lot of people didn't like it. Was Steve Carell, but I watched it and I thought this is great. I really loved it. So, but then the original Get Smart is it's out of the '60s, so it's got that sort of '60s vibe, which is it has a bit of a psychedelic sort of tongue-in-cheek deal. And then it's Mel Brooks, so it's a comedy, right? So they do all these gags. They do sort of a kind of a Mission Impossible type of thing, but the lead character is kind of a bit of a doofus, but he always stumbles his way through and manages to work his way out. However, there's a very strong female lead, his partner, 99, who's just like totally suave, totally with it. And she's like the straight man. And she's the one, one of her lines that she always says is she's like, "Oh, Max. Oh, Max." His name's Maxwell Smart, She rolls her eyes at him and stuff when he does really stupid things and then bails him out when needed. He's Agent 86 and she's Agent 99. So he's like 99. Anyway, so that's one way to go too, is to go the comedy route. That's like in this book, it seemed very serious the whole time. It didn't lighten up on me at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought it had some light moments.
Maybe I should reread it again and see if I can, second time around, I can get more out of it. Because the big thing that came to me in this book was, the main thing was always just showing how tough Sexx Pistol is, and how she just is always living in this really tough environment. And like, that was it. That was like the main theme through the whole book for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's going to be fun to really hear more of her backstory and stuff and see how things go on. So you said that her mom was a single mom.
Right.
But Sexx Pistol herself wasn't a single mom, right?
No, she doesn't have any children.
Right. She's
never been married either. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So she's definitely very independent. Does she know martial arts? Like, can she do kung fu and stuff like that?
No, she cannot do kung fu.
Okay.
She can fight, but not
Right.
necessarily kung fu.
Definitely fights.
And she didn't have a secret history as a UFC fighter. She didn't have that. But
does she ever wear makeup?
Yeah, she wears makeup.
Okay.
Yeah. You can be tough and wear makeup.
Right, that's true. I can't remember if there was a scene where like I could see her putting on lipstick or something, or like putting on her eyeshadow and doing it, but I don't remember if she actually did it.
The 80s rock bands, right? Like Motley Crue. They were pretty badass and they wore makeup, right?
Yeah. Well, like my Star Trek character in my show, Captain Hardinger, he always tries to be tough. Like, he's this really tough guy from Texas, but then there's a scene where he has a hologram who advises him on all his esthetician. He has an emergency esthetician hologram who tells him like how to part his hair or like gives him advice. And there's this one scene at the end where like he's about to see he's totally drunk, right? And then he realizes, oh crap, I'm supposed to go see the Admiral right now. And now I'm totally shit-faced. What do I do? Dominica, and she goes, well, some hair gel and a bit of base would be fine. So he like gels his hair and puts some makeup on and then gets himself all done up and looks in the mirror and then goes off to see the Admiral. So I can kind of relate. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's really wild. So like, when you go to bed at night and you're dreaming, do you dream of these scenes still, or is it now out of your head?
When I am driving, when I'm taking a shower, when I'm just taking notes, I whiteboard, I'm constantly thinking of this story or other stories. So I'm always in constant creation mode, and it gets a little exhausting if I'm taking a walk. So sometimes I just need some nothing. But I'm also always doing research. I'm always trying to read books, listen to podcasts,
right,
be able to incorporate some authenticity to my story, ask questions to the right individuals and such. So I'm always trying to be inspired, even through music. I'll listen to a song. In fact, when I wrote this, it was actually inspired by this song, Psycho Killer by Talking Heads.
Okay.
So, and even the ending, when I envisioned the ending, I envisioned the Doors, Love Her Madly as the
Oh yeah.
closing song. So
Yeah.
there's different songs that affect me, and I go, okay, I see this scene in my head, and this is how I would play it out.
So she loves you madly as she's walking out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. So right when the
Yeah.
movie, yeah, because I told you I wrote it as a screenplay. So right when that's what I envisioned as the last song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that when you did you just come up with the idea, I'm going to write a screenplay, or like, did you have some actors in mind already, or a producer that, or did you just like, I'm just going to try this and see what I can do with it?
I wanted to go to grad school for screenwriting,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't get into this school of my choice. So,
Uh,
but I
is
wrote
that
this
USC?
background, UCLA.
Oh, UCLA. Okay.
Yeah. But I wrote this back when I was in college in undergrad, and I was taking a course.
Huh.
So that's why I initially wrote it. And
Oh, that's how it started. It was like a homework assignment.
yeah, and
All right, that's
then
wild.
I was the only one that finished a full screenplay. It was over 100 pages. People were still on page 15, but I was focused, prolific, and I just got it done. And I had to update things. This is back in 2001, 2000. Yeah. So
Huh.
imagine we didn't have like, not everybody had a cell phone, right? So there's
Right.
pay phones. So when rewrote 75% of this back when I was in Afghanistan back around 2010.
Okay.
And I changed elements, got rid of the pay phones, added cell phones. I still try not to have so many cell phones, but update a little bit of the jokes here and there. I've always had certain actors in mind, but honestly, I think all the roles are pretty exciting to play, and anybody can put their own spin on it.
Yeah, that's cool. So this really goes back far. This goes back almost 20 years then.
20 years,
You've been
yeah.
working on
So
this.
initial inspiration, 20 years. So
Do you find after having let it sit for that long, is it easier to bring it back to life again and rework it?
Uh, well, I reworked it back, what, 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago when I was in Afghanistan, and I just rewrote a majority of it. And even now, when I'm thinking, I think it is actually easier. Things have
Yeah,
changed. Information is more accessible. So a lot more ideas or in a different
yeah,
time. So you can do a lot more things. But
yeah,
sometimes I think about it and I go, maybe I should just kept the story happening in 2001 and, kept that nostalgia
uh-huh,
of that time and era. So,
yeah,
yeah.
neat. Wow. Well, it's great. It's been great working with you. And I'm kind of, I might email you about that, doing that little, adding some voices to some and see what you
Sure.
think of that. Yeah.
Okay.
I know a couple voice actors, so that could probably do it, at least try it. And we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be
I don't
fun.
know
Why
if,
not?
yeah.
Yeah.
I see I've been working on different accents, but the accent I've been working on right now is like a Brooklyn accent. So unfortunately, this isn't, and none of this is in Brooklyn, even though that accent would work.
You want to try it? Let's
I
try
mean,
a
like I can,
couple lines.
okay, let me put other glasses on here. What part in the book should we? Like for my Brooklyn one, like where's the one where there's that construction worker? That's like, we don't have, oh, we don't have page numbers though. Is that spot here? Well, I'll never find it. But can you be her at the beginning?
I don't have the book in front of me. Let
Oh, okay. Because we're at the bowling alley.
me see if I can pull up a PDF.
Oh, here's Las Vegas. We're like, Hugo, you found me.
Yeah, we could do it where she's gardening.
Yeah, okay. That's like page 3 or something.
Yeah, yeah. So let
Okay,
me See if I
Clip,
can
clip,
increase
clip,
this.
clip.
And by no means am I an actor, so
So you flip your gun around.
flip around and I'll say,
Hey, now
"You found me."
I'm a bounty hunter. After it's my job. You look good. Always nice to see an old friend.
Wish I could say the same.
Beautiful orchids.
I'm surprised, Rhett.
You don't figure after 3 years I'd know my own employee.
Ex-employee.
No hard feelings, I hope.
You're still alive and breathing, right?
You can't say you lost your charm. Not why I'm here. You've always
Figured-
had a funny way of looking at things.
I think it's my line first.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. It's figured
It's
you
hard
finally
for me to read because the font's so small. I got my
Yeah,
bifocals
I
on.
get that, the lettering.
Do they
Figured you
always
finally
do that? I notice most comic books do that. I don't know why that style is that way.
figured you finally came to your senses.
Okay, where's this? Oh, you've always had a funny way of looking at things.
Let's see.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, we
Yeah.
probably what we do is like turn it into a script and that'd be easier to do the lines. But
Yeah, and the script
it'd
is
be
already
fun to
done.
do.
So yeah.
So I couldn't do my Brooklyn accent. Like if it was Brooklyn, like you can't say you lost your charm. You know, I'm here. You always had a funny way of looking at things, chick, baby. You know, this depending on how corny you'd want it. There's lots of ways. There's a lot of different characters we could put on. But anyway, possibilities. And then if it's a YouTube thing, you could get away. Most bands, you could probably get away with using their songs, and then they wouldn't block you, but they'd probably just claim the ad revenue for the YouTube video. So if you did it like that, a small little YouTube video, you could probably just pick the music you like to keep, like if you wanted some Sex Pistols things in there or stuff like that, you could do it. And the worst thing they do is they'd say you can't use this, and you just have to take it down and put something else up.
Got it. Okay.
And then it's not really that hard to do sound effects either if you have somebody that knows what they're doing. So basically some good voice acting that you like, sound effects, some music, and then of course you'd show, you know, the actual graphics, and then it can end up being really cool actually.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
All right. Well, we'll email each other and see what we can do with that. So anything else going on you want to talk about?
No, just right now working on the second book. It's like 95% done, and I'm looking to work with a copy editor and artist team very soon. So trying to figure out the right way to do this.
Yeah.
What kind of vision I have for it. It won't be as big as this story. It'll probably be between 40 to 60 pages, but I think it'll be a fun story. Yeah.
Cool. And you're not going to give any hints as to what's in it yet, right?
I can give you the title. It's called Pimp Killer. So
what's it called?
Pimp Killer.
Pimp Killer.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a different character, or is that?
It's a whole different character. It's a whole different badass character who just goes around killing pimps. So
okay.
I got inspired. I was in a Uber with a very cool, sassy driver, and she was giving me some crazy stories with some of her guests in the vehicle as she drove in Vegas. So I was like, okay, I'm getting some ideas. So
that would be I can see how that would be a cool story, actually. So she goes around and meets all the prostitutes and stuff and gets to know them. And
yeah, this character isn't necessarily an Uber driver or rideshare. However, she's connected with law enforcement, and cases that they don't want to handle or just too busy, she goes around trying to avenge. So
right.
And that's the main thing.
That's her thing.
Yeah. So that's what she does.
Sort of a Batman type of thing.
Yeah.
Batman woman.
She doesn't have all the fancy gadgets. She keeps it pretty grounded, but she has fun doing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that one too. Cool. Well, let's just wrap it up, and we'll look forward to your next thing. And then, like I said, I'm going to put a link to your website. That's 357magnumopus.com, right?
Right. Yes.
right in the description. And then there was another link we were putting there also. What was it?
Well, my TikTok and Twitter.
TikTok.
Ghezal Supernova. You can find me on. So
Okay.
Ghezal Supernova. So I'm
Okay.
on TikTok
And your Twitter too. Are you on Facebook as well?
I am, but I'm just never on Facebook. Honestly,
Okay.
like I'll try to use it more. It's hard to be on every channel,
Right.
so I'm more on Instagram. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're more with it than I am because I'm old school. I'm like on Twitter and Facebook, and then I have an Instagram account, but I never use it. And I'm not even on TikTok yet. But
TikTok's fun. It's
yeah,
addictive though, but it's
my
fun.
wife is totally into TikTok now. She's been
It's
watching it all
yeah.
day for a week. So
You know what? I'll sometimes I'll be watching it and then they'll send me like a quick video, like, hey, like I think you've been watching for too long. Why don't you take a break? And I'm like, okay, thank you for letting me know an hour straight of just TikTok videos. So
yeah, it's wild. Okay. Well, it's been great getting to know you a little bit. And
thanks, Matt.
so
Likewise.
let's just keep in contact about potential audio play along with this, and who knows what we'll do. And like I said, we can do it on my channel if you want, or we can do it and put it up on your channel once you get it up and going, or however you want to do it.
Okay, sounds
That's
good.
fine.
Thank you for this opportunity to chat
Sure.
about the book.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Fantastic creations emerging spontaneously from the space of life.
For the benefit of all beings everywhere.
We gotta